Amen. Hey, worship was good today. Hey, I want to start by, you can clap for them. I want to start by doing something real quick. Today after service, you maybe saw in our announcements, we're having our first, what we're calling a training day. It's an opportunity if you're new to the church or you're not serving somewhere already. We want to invite you to stay for an hour. Here's the cool thing. We're going to feed you, and we're going to be about a half hour of actual training. You can meet with ministry leaders. You can ask questions, get vision. But we believe this. We believe that you get saved, you get baptized, you start serving, and then you start leading. We believe that is the progression of what God has called us to do. So today you are invited to stay after. Immediately following, we're going to feed you some really good lasagna, and I hope that you like it. We have a gluten-free option as well. So everyone can participate in that. Now here's what I want to say real quick. I am so thankful that the church rises up every week. I just want to thank some people. Our worship team has been working tirelessly for months. You may be here for the first time today, but I want to tell you they've been going at it for months. And so I just want to say thank you to all of the people in the church. This morning, we had someone sick, so my wife stepped up and said, I'll run computer. But again, we're having a training day, so if you want to run computer, you should get on that team. So she don't have to do it next time. But here's what I want to say, is the church is better when we're together. And so I am so thankful of what God has done. Last Sunday, you guys killed it, unloading pumpkins. It was unbelievable to see. Let me just tell you, we say that we want to be a church that knows how to serve, but last week you showed that you know how to serve. We're not just talking about it. You guys did it. We were the church. And so I just want to celebrate the things that God has done and God is doing. This Friday, make sure you get to our fall festival. It's going to be awesome. It's the first one, but it's free to the community, so invite some people. So this is the last Sunday. Look to your neighbor, the best looking one you can find, and say, this is the last Sunday. Not ever. That was weak too. You guys got to talk a little bit. This is the last Sunday. That was like the last Sunday of your life. No, I should have went further. This is the last Sunday of In the Beginning. And so this is the last week of the first series of the church. Now let me just say this. This series has been built around principles and values that we believe as a church God has called us to. And so this morning, we're going to talk about running, okay? Now, I'm going to make a profession on the front side of this. This morning's message is called Running After God, okay? Because I'm just going to tell you this. We're going to be a church that runs after God. We're going to sprint after the things of God. We're not going to let any boundary, any restriction, anything that the government says we can or can't do. We're running after Jesus, and we're not going to apologize for it. We're going to go after the love of God, and we're going to do whatever we can to see people that don't know Jesus come into a relationship with Him. But this is an individual thing. Yeah, we want to do it as a church, but guess what? The church is made up of people. And each person has their own story, and each person has their own decision. So I'm just wondering if there's some people in this room today that would say, you know what, you already got my attention because I don't know if I'm running after God. And maybe today I can help you identify where you are in your pursuit after Jesus and the things of God. But I want to say on the front side, let's talk about the physical act of running. I hate running. I hate it. I'm just being serious. There's only a few things in life that I hate. I hate feet. Preach. I hate the Green Bay Packers, and I hate running. Well, I don't hate the Dodgers. I just feel misled by the Brewers last night. But I hate running. And here's the thing. I've tried to like it. I've done my best. I've gotten shoes that would promote running. I've got dry fit shirts that, they wick the sweat. And I thought, man, if I get this shirt, I'll naturally start running. If I get the shorts that are a little too high and make you feel a little uncomfortable, and you're like, really? Why would you do that? I got those. And so I'm thinking... if I put the shoes on and the shorts and the shirt, then naturally I'll want to run. But the truth is, I still hate running. And I don't know if there's anyone in this room that hates running with me, but real runners are easy to spot. Now, here's how I know when a real runner is. I don't care what you got on, right? Because I got all the same stuff. I got the shorts, the shirt, the shoes, the whole thing. But I know a real runner when it's 6 a.m. and I'm driving down the road on some back street and I see someone running. That's a real runner. It's 115 degrees. Go outside in the pool, cool off, do something, but they're running. Why? Why would you do that? Real runners are easy to spot. Now, I'm a counterfeit. I can put on all the right outfit, but I'm a counterfeit runner. No matter what I put on, you could probably tell that I am not a real runner. And I wonder today, am I alone in this? Is there anyone else in here that hates running? Okay? Is anyone else in here that hates runners? No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I confessed my sin before you, but don't put yourself there. Okay, but let's just be truthful for a second. Are there any runners in the room? Anyone that says, I run at least 3 times a week? Ooh, the real run. Mateo, my man. What about once a week? Anyone? You once a week? Once a month, you go to the gym and you wrestle out a treadmill session? Yeah, okay, you're trying to get big, not fit, so you're just going for the big stuff. Anyone else? Any runners in the room? No, I kind of assumed that this would happen. I didn't think all the hands would go up. You know why? Because running's pretty difficult. To become a serious runner, it's actually a pretty difficult thing to do because it requires desire, discipline, and dedication. You will never be a real runner that sees real results unless you, number one, have a desire to run. Number two, have a discipline that sets things aside and prioritize running. And last thing, dedication. You will not become a serious runner until those things are in place. And here's the crazy thing about running. We know how good it is for us. There's science upon science that says if you exercise for 20 minutes a day, let's just even say cardiovascular exercise, say it's riding a bike, swimming, whatever it is, 20 minutes a day greatly enhances your lack of disease, your longevity in life, the way that you feel. Like there's so much science behind exercise is so good for us. Now watch this. We know there's a health benefit to it. We know that when we do it, it's a retreat for our mind. It's an escape for us mentally to just kind of unwind. Either you can think about nothing or you can think about everything, but you're free to just let your mind go. Or lastly, maybe your spouse just would love the 30-minute break. I mean, we know that there are many benefits from you getting out of the house and running. So if we know that there's a health benefit, we know that there's a mental benefit, we know that there's a relational benefit, then the question is, why do the majority of us not do it? If we know that it's good for us, and we could see the results of what it would do, why don't we do it? Because it requires desire, discipline, and dedication. And so I'm going to flip this real quick. I'm talking about the physical act of running. I don't really want to talk about what your physical running style is today. I want to flip this to a more spiritual conversation. Are you running after God in your soul today? You see, physically we can all get there. And the reason I wanted to use this illustration, and it's the same one that Paul uses in 1 Corinthians. That's where we're going to get our text this morning. But there is a real a race that we are running in, all of us. And it's called life. And so I want to prove to you today that God is not only inviting you to start running, but that you have more in you than you thought you did today, and that it is capable for you to start running after the things of God. So what does the Bible say about this? In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, we're going to get there in a second, but I already said this. We're going to be a church that runs after God. So this is why I want to make this a highlight of this morning, is we will not go slow. Now here's the truth, is when you run after God, sometimes we're going to fall. But we're going to run, and we're going to learn. I'm just going to tell you, we're going to make mistakes swinging the bat, and we're going to do things as a church. If we strike out, it's going to be because we swung and missed, not because we watched it go by. We will run, and we're going to do it with wisdom, and we're going to do it with clarity, and we're going to do it with vision, and we're going to do it hopefully with guidance from the Lord. But I'm just saying this, we're going to sprint after what God calls us to. And I hope that you're excited to be in a church that believes in running after God. We won't be passive. We're not going to be on the sideline. Just because we got the jersey doesn't mean we're on the team. We're actually going to get into the game in this community and really seek out how can we make a difference for God. But it's going to happen when we start to run, not walk, not pace, go fast. And so this morning, 1 Corinthians chapter 9 is our text. Paul is writing to the church at Corinth. Influential place in Greece, modern day Greece. Now, I want to tell you why he picked the subject of running to teach the early church. Because the Olympic Games that we celebrate every 4 years in America, these are actually 700 years before Christ. These were implemented. These were big time European games. They were thought about all year long. People, it's actually part of their calendar system was built around the Olympics. It was a huge part of their culture. And so he knew that the early church would identify easily with the concept of running. And so here's his audience, right? His audience is a new church, mostly made up of Gentiles who were not raised in Jewish culture. So they did not know the things of God. They weren't raised in the church. Like I think many people in the room today, maybe you're new to faith or you're checking out this whole Jesus thing and you don't really know much about God and you weren't maybe raised in the church. I'll just say Paul was writing and speaking to that kind of church. And they were getting easily distracted by idolatry, by things like that they had to add to Jesus. So this was the context to who Paul was speaking to. They were easily confused, easily distracted, young Christians, young people in the faith. And so he writes this letter to them. And here's what he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, starting in verse 24, 4 verses. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. You see, in this text, I think Paul identifies three things. If we're going to run after God, it's going to take desire, discipline, and dedication. So let's start with desire. Verse 24. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. You see, you will prioritize what you desire. Now, you just got to think about this in your own context, in your home, in your life, in your social circle. Think about the things that are untouchable. Maybe it's a TV show. Maybe it's a relational thing. Maybe it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, a husband, wife. It's untouchable. Like, this is a priority to me. I'm going to do it. Maybe it's a certain eating habit. Maybe there's something you do every Friday night. It's untouchable. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe today, after church, maybe it's watching football. Maybe that's untouchable. Maybe that's something that you desire. You're going to make a way to do it. I don't know what it is for you today, but we all have desires, and you will prioritize what you desire. Maybe it's working out. I don't know what it is for you. But what Paul is talking about here is he's saying, hey, we're all running in a race, right? And it's called life. We're all running. We're all in life, but only one gets the prize. Now, is this saying like only one person gets to heaven? No. Here's what I think Paul is saying. There's only one you. God only created one of you. And so there's a lot of people running. And here's the thing. The world they're running after salaries. They're running after status and position and authority. They're running after all of these things. And Paul is saying, yeah, but there's only one of you. And if you don't run your race, then someone else is going to pass you up. And God is going to, here's the thing, God's sovereignty, God's will be done with or without us. So if God created you to do something and you're just slow in the mud, God's going to say, all right, someone else, you got to do this because my will not be halted. I will do what I set out to do. And so I think what Paul is saying is he's saying, what does your desire look like in the race that God called you to run? Now, we're all running, but you have a specific race that God called you to run. He's not talking about a middle-of-the-pack Christianity. He's talking about leading and running quickly with the expectation to lead in the race. Now, let me just say this. Any sports fans in the room? Do you get excited about a season you know you're going to lose? No. No one would sit down and schedule out a whole 3-hour thing if you knew you would lose. There would be no fun in it. But sometimes in our life as believers, we don't have a desire to see God win. And we don't really think that we can lead in the race. We're just happy to be running or even be a participant in it or be on the side where one of those people that gives the runners water, right? We can see the activity of God, but we're not in it. And what Paul is saying is like, hey, Corinthian church, hey, Bridge Church, hey, I know that you see the race. And I know that you see all the activity of the runners. But today, are you running your race? What does your desire to run after God look like? It's specific to you. You see, your desire will dictate your pace. Depending on how much you want something will determine the speed in which you pursue it. Let's make this spiritual for a moment. How bad do you want a miracle in your life? How bad do you want to know your God-given destiny? Why did God breathe life in you today? Please, church, don't think that it's just by happenstance that you're here today. Don't just think that every day is just another day just to breathe and work a 9-to-5 and make enough money to survive. That is not the life God called you to. God did not breathe life into you for that. So your desire will dictate your pace. Now, some of us, we're running pretty fast after a promotion at work. Some of us, we're running pretty fast at our dream house. Some of us, we're running pretty fast at upgrading our car. Some of us are running really fast at adding some zeros to our bank account. Some of us are running really fast after a relationship, some that do and some that don't honor God. Some of us are running pretty fast at sin because the desire of it feels good. But let me just tell you today, how much you want the things of God will dictate the pace in which you pursue Him. And so today I'm believing that there's some people that say, you know what? I'm not running after God, and I'll just call it what it is. But today, I want to pick up the pace. I want to pursue God in a new way, in a new season. I'm not settling for yesterday's anointing. I want something new from God. Church, is there someone in here today that says, I want something new from God? Then I believe today God is going to give you what you need to pick up the pace. Because your desire will dictate your pace. A statistic I read said that 85% of Americans are reactive and static, which means they wait for life to happen. The other 15%, you know what they are? They're people that have a great desire for what they want. And they're going to be proactive. Here's what desire does. It makes you proactive, not reactive. So you want something from God? Stop waiting on the pastor to give it to you. Stop waiting on your parents to bring it to your doorstep. Stop waiting for your spouse to give you the right book. Stop waiting and say, God, I won't leave until you show up. That's what true desire does. And so today we do this in our life. And it's different for every person here. There's things that you desire. There's things that I desire. I'll be honest. I want to watch the Viking game today. I'm going to. I've set aside time. I will go home and watch it. And if you ruin it for me, we're not friends anymore. Because I record it and watch it about 1. But truth is, I will watch that game today. It's important to me. I've set aside time. I don't know what it is for you, but you set aside time for things. But I wonder today if we were to take an honest evaluation of our spiritual life, and we say it with our mouth, God, I want you to move. God, I want something new. God, I want you to do a miracle. God, I want to know why you put me on this planet. God, I want these things. But we won't pursue Him any differently. We'll stay in our same pattern of putting everything else before God. And so we're going to be a church that runs after God, but it starts with you as an individual. Are you running after God? How can you accelerate your pursuit of God today? A couple ways is start leading. When you start leading, guess what it does? It forces you to lean on God. Now, I'm not equipped. I don't know enough. I don't know the Bible enough. I can't lead a small group. I've only been saved 6 months. Let me just tell you, as soon as you start leading things of God, what you've done is you've made yourself rely on God even more. Because now people need you and people are looking to you and people want to hear what you have to say. And so you have to go to the source even more. So today, let me just say, you want to pick up your desire for God, start leading somewhere. Start small, but start leading. It enhances everything about the way you will pursue God. There's a quote I read. This is for some people in this room. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Let me just tell you, I don't know what your family history is. I don't know if you come from a believing family. I didn't have a path to follow in my walk with Christ. I kind of had to just hear from God and pursue Him where He took me, and it was so different than other people's journeys or what I thought. But let me just tell you today, some people you're waiting for someone to carve out a perfect path so that you can safely walk through, and you know there's no animals waiting, you know there's no traps waiting, you know that there's no quicksand waiting. Let me just tell you today, if you really want to start pursuing God, you won't wait for someone else to lead you. You'll just go. And you'll say, God, I want you, and my desire for you is above all else, and so I will go where there is no path, and I'll make one. And guess what? You'll lead some people to follow behind you. Run your race, because it's only yours to run. Number 2. So that's desire. Number 2 is discipline. Verse 25, it says, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. See, here's the thing about discipline. You'll never be fit to lead someone else until you know how to lead yourself. And the only way that you'll know how to lead yourself is by putting disciplines in place. Let me tell you what discipline isn't. Discipline is not you getting in trouble when you go home for doing something. Disciplines is what you do to make sure what you want to do happens. Disciplines, let me just say this. So you want to work out? You're going to set your alarm at a certain time to make sure you get up. And you're going to set up probably another set of accountability and tell your spouse or whoever in the house, hey, if I'm not up by this time, make sure I'm up because I got to get to the gym because I've made it important. I don't know what you discipline yourself for, but I know that discipline is mandatory for someone who is going to race and chase after God. You will not lead in running by accident. You'll do it when discipline emerges. Let me just tell you, you're never going to run after God by accident, and discipline's not going to happen by accident. It's going to happen when you make it important and you say, I will prioritize this. I will prioritize time with God every single day because I'm tired of walking and I'm tired of dragging my feet and I'm tired of feeling like I'm going backwards and I'm tired of crawling. So God, I want more of you, and so I will discipline myself to make sure that I spend time with you. Discipline is mandatory if you're going to run after God. No, we live in a culture that doesn't want to talk about discipline. Don't tell me how I have to do something. Let me freely explore myself. Okay, cool. Do that. But let me just tell you, anything that you want in life and you go and get, it's going to happen because you've disciplined yourself to do it. There's a quote I read by John Newton. It says, when people are right with God, they're apt to be hard on themselves, discipline, and easy on other people. But when they are not right with God, they're easy on themselves and hard on others. See, when you get to a place in your life where you're so disciplined in the things of God, but you love Jesus so much that grace flows from you, you'll start to be difficult on yourself, not in a burdensome way, but in a way like, I'm better than this. But I haven't spent time with God all week and I'm not okay with it. I haven't heard anything new from God in months and I'm not okay with that. I'm tired of settling. So today you'll start to become pretty hard on yourself just because you want to be disciplined, not for the sake of being legalistic, but because you want to see God do something brand new. You have to get to the point where this race interferes with the rest of your life. Let me just say this, if your pursuit after Jesus doesn't interfere with the rest of your life, I just don't know who you're pursuing. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a cookie cutter church that doesn't speak truth. But if your life before Jesus looks the same today after you know Jesus, I think there's something wrong. It should interfere and change everything about the way you live your life. You should give differently. You should be more generous. You should be more kind. You should care more. You should be more willing to serve when you're in relationship with Jesus, because the fruit of the Spirit, which is Jesus, when it's flowing out of you, that's a reflection of who's in you. But if your life looks the exact same, I don't know who you're running after. Because when you run after Jesus, it should and will interfere with the rest of your life. Let me use an earthly example of this. Usain Bolt. Most people in this room, you'd be familiar with him. He's the fastest man on earth. He's a Jamaican runner. He is 6'5", 190 pounds. He is in perfect physical shape. You know how he got there? You know how he became the fastest runner on earth? It's not because he was born the fastest runner on earth. He was just more disciplined than everyone else. He set his diet so he would eat 60% protein, 30% carbs, and 10% fat every single day. He would do 7 workouts a day. He doesn't take any supplements. He has no help from science for him to get to the place physically that he's at. He was just more disciplined than everyone else. He said, I want to be the fastest man on earth. I want to win a gold medal. And so here's what he did. He structured his life in such a way as to make sure he spent time doing the things that he wanted. And so today, discipline will not happen on accident. It'll happen when you purpose it. Last one. Desire, discipline. Number 3, dedication. Verse 25. They do it to get a crown. Garrett, you can come up. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. It's a stark contrast. See, there's people in your life, everyone's running, but most people are running after temporary things. They're running after titles. They're running after things that make our life more comfortable, things that feel good, things that look good, things that show people that we're doing well with our life. And what Paul is saying, hey, all these people around you, they're running to get a crown that is for this earth, but it will not last. It'll burn. And what he's saying is, but we do it, and he's speaking to the church, and I think he's speaking to some people before they've made the decision. We do it because we're pursuing a crown that will last forever. The things that we choose to pursue and race after are things that will last for eternity. And that's Jesus, just so we're clear. The things of God will last forever. Everything else will fade. And so Paul is saying, I know how difficult it is because some extra money would make life easier. I know how difficult it is because this world prioritizes title over calling. I know how difficult it is, but guess what? They're running this race and it's all going to fade. And so dedication is what keeps us in the race. You see, we dedicate ourselves to things that we see value in. Now, I don't know what that is for you. There's some people in this room, you dedicated yourself to a sports team. Maybe some teenagers in here, you dedicated yourself to an athletic event. Maybe you're in this place and you've dedicated yourself to your job. Maybe there's someone in here, you've dedicated yourself to being more comfortable. Again, these aren't bad things, but these are truths of the things that we've dedicated ourselves. Maybe you've dedicated yourself to some hobbies. They're important. You prioritize them. You structure your life so that they happen. Maybe some people in this room, you've dedicated yourself to sin. You see, I'm going to use an example. 12 years ago, I made the decision to start tithing. Now, we're not going to be a church that talks about money all the time, but Jesus talked about money all the time because it was so real. Everyone could identify. All of us have to pay taxes. We all got to pay mortgages or rent. We have to pay car payment. So money is an easy thing to talk about in that context because we can all find common ground. But 12 years ago, as a poor 22-year-old, you just find out how old I am. 22-year-old, I never learned about tithing as a kid. It was never talked about. I didn't know if my dad ever tithed. I don't even know what tithing is. Tithing is giving a 10% back to God. That's what tithing is, but I didn't know what it was. And at 22 years old, I was in a Bible program, and my pastor kept talking to us about it, and I was like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. You just trust God. And I was like, well, I only got like $25 a week. He's like, if you can't trust God with $25 a week, how in the world are you going to trust him when you make more money? And I was like, dang, that's a good point. So I started with like the $3, $4 that I could tithe that was real for me. Okay? I made this decision. I wanted to be dedicated to tithing, not because it made sense to me, but because God asked for it, and because the Bible was clear on the subject as far as I was concerned, that God was asking for a 10% trust of who He is. And so I started at 22. When we got married, I was 28. For the last 6 years, my wife and I, we've tithed faithfully. Now, hold on. This is not about me. I want to prove a point here. We've never had one fight about finances. Not one. Not even one. Ever. Pastors just, they don't make a ton of money. We live on a single income. We tithe because we are dedicated to what God said. Now, let me be real. When I see the tithe at the end of the year, I look and say, that's a family vacation that we couldn't take. That's a new TV that we don't have. And you can fill in the blank however you want. But when you're dedicated to something, you'll make sacrifices where it doesn't matter. And so for us, because we wanted to be faithful to what God called us to, we've made sacrifices along the way. And because we see the big picture. It's not about right now. It's not about the Disneyland trip when our son's 3. It's about in 25 years. We've never fought about money. I don't even know how we make enough to live. She doesn't work. She stays home with our baby, which is what we wanted. And I really believe because we instituted a dedicated life that God, we're going to trust you more than our bank account. We're going to pursue you more than a monetary status. God, we are going to give you all of our trust and our faith. I feel like God has rewarded us over and over and over and over. And I would never choose another life than the one that we live today. But it was about being dedicated and seeing something further than right now. Right now, I'd love those extra numbers, but long term, I'm just going to love the fact that God blesses us because we were faithful and trusted Him. You see, I don't know in the church where you are with the Lord, but dedicated people, they don't, there's a Christian term called backsliding, which is mean you kind of just fall away from the Lord. You start to pursue other things. People don't backslide because one day they wake up and say, oh, God, I don't love you anymore. I don't want to know you. I don't want your plan for my life. They do it because they forget why they're running and who they're running after. They forgot why they were dedicated to. So today, I don't know where you are, and I don't know what your desire looks like. And I don't know if you feel like you're aimlessly running, trying to figure this out along the way. Paul spoke to that in verse 26. He says, therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. My eyes are on Jesus. And I don't know every answer of how I'm going to get to him, but I can see a clear picture of where Jesus is. And I'm going to not just pursue him, I'm going to run after him. And I don't know what that means for you today. But I do know that Jesus is the goal. Jesus is our aim. It's nothing else. Or I'm just speaking for myself today. There's nothing else in life that matters but to be in relationship and to have intimacy with Jesus. And so when I run after him, I don't want to run aimlessly, so I just keep my eyes on him. And he'll figure all the other stuff out, because I can't, and I don't really want to. And some of us were scared to increase the pace. I'm going to finish with this. I don't know if you know power steering. You get in a car, you go in the parking lot today, try it, go 5 miles an hour and see how many times you have to turn the wheel to just turn a little bit. Here's the crazy thing about speed. The faster you go, the easier it is to turn. The faster you run after God, it actually makes it easier. Because you're taking the responsibility off of you. You're taking the weight off of you. You're taking the agenda off of you, and you're saying, Jesus, I don't have all the answers, and I'm just giving them to you. I'm going to trust you. When you start to run after God at a faster pace, it actually makes things easier, but it's very difficult to get going. It's like a train. It takes forever to get going, but once it's going, it's very hard to stop. So what do we do about this? Today, let's make this practical as we close. Each person, you need to evaluate where you are today. Are you running after God? Are you jogging after God? Are you walking after God? Are you limping after God? Are you crawling after God? Are you standing still watching God? Are you running away from God? You're one of those paces today. And if we're going to be real and we're going to see life change and we're really going to live for God, then we just got to call our life what it is today. Am I recklessly running after God, or am I somewhere behind that? You see, today is a day to accelerate. This word accelerate, it means to increase the speed of or to bring about sooner. And even if the best you can do today is you can go from a crawl to a walk, that's progress. Even if the best you can do today is go from running from God to standing still, that's progress. If you would just say, today, God, I want to increase the speed of how I pursue you, and even if it's by this much, it's progress, and God will take it, and God will build it, and God will water that seed, and it will blow up, and it'll harvest into something new. But today, you got to make a choice. And you got to say, I want to increase the speed of how I know Jesus and how I pursue the things of God. And I believe if people would do that in this room today, I believe the church would be forever changed. I can't imagine the impact we'd have in this community if we had 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 people that were running after God. I can't even imagine what God could do with that. So today, how can you increase the speed or bring about sooner? 3 questions. You can write them down. This is for you. I'm going to try to make this a routine part of how I close each message. I want this to be real. I want you to take this home. I want you to think about this on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Do something about what God has done. Number 1, this is for you. Do you desire the things of God? Personal question. No one can answer that for you. That's your question. Do I desire the things of God? You won't be devoted or disciplined to the things that you don't want. This is a question of what you want. Will you desire the things of God? Number 2, what would an acceleration look like in your devotion to God? What would it look like to go faster? Even if it was just a little bit faster, what would that look like? How would you set aside time? How would you discipline yourself? How would you devote what would it look like? That's a question for you. Start somewhere. Rome was not built overnight. Start somewhere. one small measure. I can't tithe 10%, then tithe 1. Yeah, but I can't give up 5 hours, give 1. Yeah, but I can't serve every weekend. Okay, give 1 Sunday a month. Start somewhere and see what God would do. Number 3, how can you create discipline to do what you desire? How can you set up a discipline? What alarm do you need to set? What time do you need to commit? I'm turning off the TV at this time every night because I'm committed to a healthy marriage. I'm committed to pursuing God. I'm committing. And you can fill in the blank for you where it's most applicable, but what am I going to do in my life to re-strategize and reprioritize pursuing God? You will never fall into being disciplined. You will choose it. You will never fall into running after God. You will choose it. So today, we're going to close with the song of worship. We do it because we want to run after God. After that, we're going to have a time where if you say, I wasn't even planning on staying around today, but after this, I feel like I want to check out what's going on at the church and see how I can get involved. We've prepared a meal for you if you'd like to stay. As soon as we close, we're going to do that. But can I pray for the church this morning? If you need to respond this morning, you need someone to pray with you, we're going to do that. If you just bow your heads and close your eyes this morning, I don't want to miss this moment. Jesus, I thank you that you don't disqualify us when we run after the wrong things. I thank you, God, that you've clearly made a race that we're supposed to run in, God, and you've given us everything we need. We have the shoes, we have the shorts, we have everything we need to run an effective race. But today, God, I pray that if there's someone in this room that says, I've never made the prize Jesus, I've been running after career, I've been running after status, I've been running after finance, I've been running after things, but they haven't been Jesus, then in a moment, you'll have an opportunity if you want to surrender that to the Lord and say, Jesus, I want to know you as Savior. Or Jesus, I want to come back to you. I've been running from you, not towards you, and I don't want to go another moment. My desire to know you is so strong that I'll take this moment right now and I'll respond. If that's you, in a moment, we'll have some prayer partners up here. You're welcome to come. We're going to pray with you. We're going to believe with you. Everyone else, if you say, yes, I'm going to accelerate my pace today as we sing and worship, as we close this morning, I would just ask you, just pursue God just a hair differently than you did before. Pursue God just a little more. Accelerate your worship and see what God would do. Jesus, we thank you. We ask you to move. In Jesus' name, amen.